are you able to start off by telling me a little bit about your background, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe I've had a pretty colourful journey throughout my electrical career.
Mhm.
It's taken me places that I never thought that I would be able to go. So I really have to thank the electrical industry and the various industries where you can quickly, sidestep and diversify. And it started with obviously me being an apprentice,
Mhm.
big tech and so forth. But in this apprenticeship,
Mhm.
the one really good thing that came about it was how many different fields I got to work in.
Mhm.
Now, it was driven maybe more so by labour
Mhm.
because the employers that were seeking work or apprentices were just looking for labour, which was fine. But then that allowed me to make a lot of networks along the way,
Mhm. Mhm.
rather than being stationed with one employer doing
Mhm.
sort of one field
Mhm.
within the whole industry. So
Right.
the hard thing is that when I came out of my time
Mhm.
and I got my A grade, we could say I didn't have a home. So therefore, I had to really dig deep and I had to find employment.
Mhm.
So through my apprenticeship, I networked and I then got to do a lot of CCTV, access control, security.
Mhm.
So that was the first step straight out of my apprenticeship
Mhm.
with a company called Comtex.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then from that, we had the GFC from memory. So it was very hard to keep employment, especially when I was probably so green. So I actually got let off because I was moving from construction site to construction site.
Mm.
At that time, I had a person that I knew very well,
Mhm.
and they offered me an electronics job,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it was I had to take a pay cut,
Mm.
um, which was fine, but they specialised in medical devices,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was infection control was a big one. So it was autoclaves with podiatrists, tattoo clinics, normal GPs, and so I then learned a um, really different and niche market,
Mhm.
could say. So I was playing with ultrasounds and all sorts of different medical devices. Infusion pumps
Mhm. Mhm.
was a big one. They specialised in medical devices,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was infection control was a big one. So it was autoclaves with podiatrists, tattoo clinics, normal GPs, and so I then learned a um, really different and niche market,
Mhm.
could say. So I was playing with ultrasounds and all sorts of different medical devices. Infusion pumps
Mhm. Mhm.
was a big one. And then I did that for about 2 years.
Mhm.
And then a great job came to market at Siemens Healthcare.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
Siemens being the big global company.
Yep. Yep.
And
And particularly in terms of medical devices, that's actually a good transition.
yeah. So there was the imaging sector there for radiology.
Yep.
They were seeking an installation engineer that had a grade
Right.
license.
Yep. Yep.
And so I went through a pretty grueling interview
Mm.
stages, I should say. It went over about 3 months. There was about 5 interviews,
Mm.
and they were looking for the best of the best.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I didn't consider myself, that kind of being that skilled. But then 7 years on, and they invested a lot of training into me, so I was able to train in the likes of Germany, Shanghai, the US, and I specialised in molecular imaging, which is nuclear medicine, so spec machines, PET machines, CTs, MRIs. I got to play with the best of the best global wide. So that was a great achievement, and sometimes you need to give yourself a pat on the back for what you actually accomplished. But there was something that was rearing in the rear of my head all the time that was like, are you ever going to go out and do your own business? And it was a daunting, just haunting little voice in my head going, you need to do it, you need to do it. And so I did it. I packed my bags, and I went into business with a friend at the time, and he specialised in automation, and I specialised in healthcare. So that gave us the edge to the market, where it's very, very challenging to just become a grade electrician, get a van, and actually make something in this town of ours, being Melbourne. Because of the history, it's just very cutthroat. So you needed an edge, and that was our edge. And so we only, for a better part of 5 years, played with the big guys. And that was your Schneiders, GE, Siemens, Airmaster, Philips, to Toshiba, and we contracted to them, and we did their work. And we were doing very well. But unfortunately, friendships don't always last, and so we decided to shut it down and move on. But then that gave me a new phase of my career, which then led me into working with a very successful man and a technology called photoluminescence. So photoluminescence is it's a pigment that is charged by natural light and artificial light, and they did very well in implementing it into emergency and egress signs. So my role was to design and develop a sign with this pigment, which would overtake any other electrical exit sign out in the industry. So they're going to do very, very well, this company. However, I'm not with them today. That was a contract which was fulfilled. And now I'm in the last year I've been teaching as a teacher with students at Swinburne University.
And is that full time right now, teaching, or are you doing that along with does the role allow you, or is it so full time that it's pretty much?
No. So I'm a sessional teacher. So I do 3 days a week teaching, and then that gives me the time to either spend with my family or do some electrical work for personal. It's fantastic because where I started as an electrician and going to school, I got through my school, but did I 100% really understand what I was learning? The answer is no. But now that I've gone through the technology, the engineering, the financial, the business, it's almost like I've done a full circle back to where I started, but only now I understand everything that I was learning, and I'm getting to pass that on with my life experience. So this part is actually very fulfilling.
Great. Just to the final question, what guidance would you provide to any apprentices, those at the early stages of their career that might have just got their A grade license? What guidance would you give to people at the early stages of their career?
Geez, this is a hard question, right? I've never been one to give advice, but I think be safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
Be safe. If you take the duty of care to, I think, protect yourself first, and you will always be protecting others as well. This industry relies heavily on camaraderie between between peers. One, because if you're working on a job, there's guaranteed that your workmate is on the other end of that cable or that circuit, you could say. So safety is very important. And I guess don't feel that you have an obligation to one employer. I think I keep stressing how broad this industry is. So if I had to give some advice, I would say to the people coming into this industry or just getting into it, get out there and try different things. Try different employers. They could use the tools that you provide, Ray, in being able to change employers and see what else is out there. I think as long as you don't burn bridges, all right, then you can always go back to where you started.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. And it's interesting, but my daughter actually has just resigned from, she's in advertising, but she's actually resigned from the company she's at. But in terms of keeping those contacts going, she used to play social netball with her existing work. Oh, yes. And she's going to continue to do that because, it doesn't matter that she's leaving. The relationships that she's got will continue on through the social netball that she plays with her previous work. So, and you never know where that takes you. It might actually be a full circle where, at the end of the day, we're pieces of a jigsaw in a broader, sort of puzzle, so to speak. So, so it doesn't matter how those jigsaws come, sort of go back and forth, but it all comes together as one piece ultimately.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to actually just trying to keep it sort of short and crisp. I think I might have mentioned to you, I'm doing this so that those coming into the industry, recognize that there is a broader industry to take advantage of, to listen into other people's stories, to be guided by the fact that if you like what you do, stick to it because you're one of the few lucky ones that's actually found something early. But if you haven't, go out there and explore till you found something in this very broad spectrum that this trade niche covers. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much, Michael.
No, thank you, Ray.